Hello, parents and professionals. Today I'm going to be talking to you about how we make a repair when we are suffering from a rejection from a child or a young person. If you are a parent who is maybe in a situation where you've separated from the family and so you have limited access to your children, or they're not living with you full time, and you've noticed that has in some ways fractured your relationship with your children, this video is definitely going to be for you. If you are a professional who maybe you have worked with a child for a long period of time, but you've noticed that there's a change in your relationship with each other, like the dynamics have got upset in some way, and that you are no longer kind of meeting on the same page, and it feels like they are pushing you away or rejecting you in some way, then this video may very well also be helpful for you too. So if you would like to know about how to deal with parental rejection, then just keep on watching. So just to be super clear, when I talk about parental rejection for this video, I'm not talking about parents who reject their children. I'm talking about the other dynamic where we've got children who reject their parent, or adults that are in their life whom they had previously had a very positive relationship with. Now, the first thing to mention is that this isn't always something that is unusual. This isn't necessarily a negative or a problem, because actually children go through stages in their life where they are looking to separate themselves from the adults around them simply because they're flexing their independence muscles, and they are thinking about how they can function in the world as a separate entity. When children are very, very little, they literally think that they are the same person as their parent or carer. There just isn't a separation there. Over time, they start to identify themselves as a unique individual, and then they become super egocentric and think that they are literally the center of the universe. And then they start to think about how they can do things for themselves. Now, initially, we see that when they're toddlers, or, maybe at that sort of 3-4 years old stage, where they've developed some skills, such as, I don't know, putting their own coat on, and you go to help them and they're like, no, I can do it myself. And you kind of go like, wow, where did that come from? Those are like the early signs of flexing those independence muscles. But we see that happening again at various different intervals as a young person starts to grow and develop, sometimes more strongly than at other points. And of course, depending on their life circumstances and the unique events that they might be exposed to, that may at times cause them to need you more, or indeed to feel as if they need you less. Now, one of the things that I've experienced with the clients that I've worked with in the past, particularly with parents, where perhaps a parent has left the family home because of a separation, that change in the family dynamics can at times cause a child then to almost act as if, well, you're gone, look at how we don't need you anymore. And so the parent gets this quite strong sense of rejection. Maybe the child is even saying things like, I don't want to go and stay at mum's this weekend, or ignoring dad's text messages throughout the week and just not building that bridge to keep their relationship alive, even though the parent has left the family home. This is quite a common thing. It's really important that the adult in the situation, namely you, takes on the role of repairing that. And the suggestions that I give you today are not all of the suggestions that are available to you, but it's about being flexible and working with the uniqueness of the individuals that you have and finding a method that works for you. Equally, if you are a professional and you are finding that you now have a resistant young person who used to previously be quite compliant and, would work really well with you, but now you've just kind of gone off balance with that relationship, these strategies are going to be helpful for you too. And again, they are not all of the strategies that are available. It's about you as the adult here being open-minded and flexible, thinking about what might suit the individual that you have in mind, but also then switching it up and trying something different if what you're doing doesn't work for you. So in order to get back to a space where there is mutual respect, understanding, but actually you're just comfortable with each other and you are perhaps enjoying each other's company, or you're able to influence this young person in a way that makes you both happy, there are some things that you need to keep in mind. It is a balancing act. And sometimes at one end of the scale we have something like, you have to, you're doing this, you're going to spend time with me, or you're going to do this piece of work that I've told you to do because you just have to. Those are the rules. That is what the school says. This is the school's criteria. That is what the court order says. This is the criteria that you come here every weekend. You just have to, whether you like it or not. So that's when we are persuading by force. Up the other end of the scale is where it gets a bit more needy. And actually I've just talked about neediness in a video for children and young people when they have neediness in their friendships and the damage that that can do. Well, it's the same here. If we have neediness in our, you need to do this work because if you don't then I'm going to get really stressed out about it. You need to spend the weekend with me because I miss you and you're my child, I love you, I need to take you to my bosom. You know, if it is that end of the spectrum, then that isn't going to work either, because particularly in that instance we end up with a scenario where we're kind of giving the young person the power and we're giving them the authority. And actually children are not good at being the authority necessarily. They're not ready for that yet because they're not grown-ups, they're not adults. So we don't want to give them the authority to sort of be able to pull at your heartstrings and either make you feel good or bad about something. But equally, we don't want to be in a situation where you're like at loggerheads and you're doing this because you have to. So there is a balancing act. There's a sweet spot there somewhere in the middle that we want to try to find and hit. And here's what that might look like. That sweet spot, that somewhere in the middle, is along the lines of, I'm asking you to do this because I believe it's the right thing for you. And I'm asking you to do this because I like you. I want to hang out with you. You're a cool person. I think you can do this. I think you've got the skills and capability. So we're taking out all of the frustration and all of the high drama, and it just makes it more like, you know, I want you here because I like you and I think you can do well at this. Whether that is a friendship or a piece of work, we're just making it more neutralized and like we're being cool about it. Now the other thing is that there may be times when we need to respect that they're going to make their own decisions, particularly the older they get. Maybe there is a child who doesn't want to go see dad at the weekend, and there comes a point when you have to say, well, you're 14 now, so maybe you don't want to do sleepovers at dad's house, you know, and maybe that's okay. Maybe there's a point at which we're saying, well, you don't have to do your GCSE revision. It's going to be on your head if you don't. But, you know, at some point we have to say, okay, you do get to make those decisions, but it's about deciding around the context and the development and age of that child as to what that would be. So what I'm saying here is that there is a point at which you have to sort of change your own expectations of what the result is going to look like here. So assuming that we are in a situation where we can respect that young person's independent thinking and we've taken that into consideration, but we still want to forge forward in some way to overcome the rejection that is being experienced from them, what we can look to do then is to make sure that we are fully entering into their world and not simply asking them to enter into ours. So that might mean that instead of just throwing the homework at them and telling them what they need to do, instead we take some time to sort of think about, how does this piece of work, how does that have relevance in the life that you have? so that they can feel a little bit more, they've got a bit more buy-in to why they're doing what they're doing. The why is always a good one to explore, particularly if we're looking at things like academic work, because sometimes we get so invested in this is what you need to know and this is how you're going to learn it, that we forgot to say, this is why this is actually really useful and relevant for you. For our parents that are experiencing that sense of rejection from your child, then make sure that what you are inviting them back into is a reflection of the world that they currently enjoy. So their own model of the world, rather than, I need you to come here with me. This is a tricky one to explain. I can probably best do it with a metaphor. So let's say that you're at the top of a mountain and your child is at the bottom, and you're saying to them, come up here and be with me. This is a fabulous place. And they're like, yeah, but I'm down here and I'm quite happy. You have to go to the bottom of the mountain. So you need to meet them where they are. If you are a parent who has maybe not spent too much time with your child recently, either because you've separated from the family or because you've just worked a lot through COVID, and you're suddenly catching up with them again and sort of thinking, I don't know if they still want to spend time with me. Do I know who they are anymore? And you're having that sort of an experience going on, then the key thing is to find out who they are now. Like, what do they like? What do they enjoy? And you enter into that world rather than kind of sitting in that rejection and resistance that you're getting from them, by inviting them back into your world, if that makes sense. And regardless of whether you are a parent or professional here, the other really important thing is that you continue to be present without pushing. And what I mean by that is, what you persist resists. So if you are pushing for this relationship to work, you are pushing for that influence from you to be there, then it can just turn into a stalemate where nobody ends up moving forward and the whole thing becomes super uncomfortable. What you need to get good at is not taking the rejection too personally, accepting it for what it is, continue to be cool and chilled out about it, and to be present with them. Even if you are not yet feeling as if you are pushing them or, bringing them back towards your way of thinking or wanting to spend time with you. So that might mean that you are sending them a text message every day, even though you know that they're not going to respond to you. It might mean that you continually offer them help with that piece of work that you know that they're finding challenging, but they're just not telling you about, even though they constantly reject your offers and do not choose to take you up on it. It's just about making yourself present and available for them anyway, so that when they've got to a point where they have either resigned themselves to realizing that they kind of do need you in their life after all, or they have come around to the idea that actually this is a really valuable relationship and that they want to continue to pursue it, then they know that you're still there and that you didn't walk away and you did not give up on them, even if they made you feel as if you would be better off walking away and giving up on them. The point is that you continue to show up in spite of that, because that's kind of what the unconditional love bit is all about. Making sure that you are always going to be there no matter what. So I hope that this was helpful for some of you in some way, shape or form for today. If it was, then make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you are not already subscribed to it. And make sure you click the notifications bell so that you get notified the next time I upload one of these videos. But for now, thank you all so much for watching and listening. And I'll see you in the next video next month. Bye!